There is no peace in a man who bows to chaos, no power in the one who mistakes emotional poison for intimacy. He smiles in public, he bleeds in silence, and he calls it love. The modern man is not destroyed by war, famine, or bullets. He is destroyed by a soft voice, a sulking silence, a kiss that teaches him to beg, not for sex, not for affection, but for basic dignity. And still, he stays, because somewhere along the line, he was told real men endure, that masculinity is silent suffering, that being good means accepting everything, even when it's killing you. But Marcus Aurelius never begged. He did not confuse suffering with strength. He ruled with stillness. He loved with discernment. And he left behind warnings, not poems, not apologies, warnings. You have power over your mind, he wrote, not outside events. But today's man, he has surrendered both. He lets a woman's moods become his climate. He lets her behavior rewrite his values. He lets his silence be interpreted as consent. And worst of all, he calls this dysfunction romance. So if you're watching this and you feel the sting of truth crawling up your spine, good, because you're waking up. This is not bitterness. This is not red pill. This is resurrection. These are Marcus Aurelius's 10 shocking rules, 10 female behaviors that no man of dignity, power, or peace should ever tolerate. Not to punish her, not to hate her, but because you refuse to betray yourself. Let's begin. Rule 1, mockery, the first poison. Disrespect doesn't always roar. Sometimes it laughs. In public, at you. The first red flag is mockery. The sarcastic jabs, the eye rolls, the jokes made in front of friends that sting harder than slaps. And when you confront her, she says, relax, it's just a joke. But here's the truth, Marcus Aurelius would have spoken plainly. What injures the hive injures the bee. And when a woman injures your image with a smile, she is not laughing with you. She is laughing at the man she no longer respects. This is how it begins. Small cuts dressed as comedy. A little public embarrassment here. A subtle correction there. Soon the people around you learn something dangerous, that you are the man whose name can be played with in front of him. And you convince yourself you're being mature, that not reacting is strength, that being chill is stoic, but it's not. It's erosion, and you're the stone, because every time she mocks you and you let it slide, you teach her how to treat you, and worse, you teach yourself what you're willing to accept in order to keep peace. But let me say this with clarity. A woman who cannot speak of you with reverence should not speak to you at all. Marcus didn't write for cowards, he wrote for kings. And he said, if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. So if what she says about you in public is not respectful, not protective, not rooted in admiration, why are you still listening? Why are you still standing there like a clown in a costume she picked for you? Understand this. If she mocks your voice, she doesn't trust your leadership. If she mocks your dreams, she doesn't believe in your future. If she mocks your masculinity, she has already replaced you in her mind with someone stronger. Mockery is not humor. Mockery is micro-betrayal. And if it's not addressed, it becomes the foundation of the relationship. You think it's just words, but words become tone. Tone becomes energy, and energy becomes permission. A man who allows his woman to humiliate him, even subtly, even playfully, is not building a relationship. He's digging a grave for his confidence, one insult at a time. Because one day it won't just be words, it will be decisions. She will make choices that damage you, and she will justify them the same way she justified the jokes. You were too sensitive. Do not confuse humor with harm. Do not call disrespect her personality. And do not sit beside a woman who entertains others by cutting you open. You don't need a comedian. You need a companion. And the man who tolerates mockery and love will one day look in the mirror and forget what strength even looks like. Rule 2. Chaos normalized, the mood that becomes your master. You don't fall in love with chaos. You adjust to it, slowly, painfully, like a man learning to breathe underwater, until drowning becomes his normal. The second behavior no man should ever tolerate is this: a woman whose emotions control the atmosphere of your life. One minute, she's soft. The next, she's distant, then angry, then affectionate, then cold, then hot. And you become the weatherman, trying to predict the storm so you don't drown in it. At first, it looks like passion, intensity, spice. But Marcus Aurelius said, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." But what happens when his home becomes a battlefield? When his peace is held hostage by her moods? When he forgets what silence sounds like because her emotions are always screaming? Here's the lie. You think you can fix it. If you say the right thing, if you walk carefully, if you love her harder, she'll calm down. But here's the truth. You are not her savior, and she is not the ocean. She is the chaos that chooses not to be calmed because drama gives her control. You start censoring yourself. You avoid topics. You wait for the right moment to speak. You celebrate her good days like you survived a war, because in a way you did. And yet you stay, because you've confused love with survival. But a man does not retreat into a storm and call it intimacy. He does not live on eggshells and call it leadership. He does not surrender his nervous system and call it sacrifice. That's not partnership. That's punishment. If your peace has become a negotiation, if your heartbeat changes depending on how she feels today, you are not in a relationship. You are in a hostage situation. And here's what the Stoics knew that modern men forget. Peace is not optional. Peace is not soft. Peace is power. The man who shares his bed with a hurricane will spend his life running, not from her, from himself, from the version of himself that once had clarity, that once had vision, that once had stillness. Chaos is not feminine, it is destructive, and the man who calls chaos her personality will one day wake up to a life where every wall is cracked, every dream drowned, and every ounce of energy spent keeping the fire from burning the house down. Do not normalize it, do not excuse it. Do not stay for one more storm, because real love brings alignment, not adrenaline. Rule 3. Attention addiction. When she needs the world more than you. There is a woman today who will spend more time choosing a filter than choosing her words. More time posing for strangers than being present for the man who loves her. And she will tell you it's empowerment. But don't be fooled. This is not self-love, it's self-abandonment on display. The third behavior no man should ever tolerate is this: a woman who needs attention from men to feel alive. She posts thirst traps and calls it confidence. She engages old flings and calls it harmless. She counts likes, views, and compliments like air. And when you question it, she calls you insecure. But let's call it what it is: addiction, not to love, to being desired. And here's the problem. A woman who feeds off male attention will always be hungry because she is not nourished by depth. She is high off dopamine. Marcus Aurelius said, "It is not death a man should fear, but never beginning to live. But how can a man begin to live when he lies beside a woman who lives for the eyes of others? She walks past a mirror, and it becomes a stage. She enters a room, and every male gaze becomes a performance. She says you're her man, but she flirts with the world like she's still auditioning. That's not love. That's currency. And you are not the man. You're the placeholder. Because here's the brutal truth. If a woman's worth is decided by strangers, she will never value the man who truly sees her soul. Because his gaze is constant, and she craves what fluctuates. The woman addicted to attention does not want a relationship. She wants an audience. And the moment your validation becomes steady, she starts to resent you for not being 10,000 voices clapping at once. And you start shrinking. You question your standards. You start thinking maybe you are too controlling, all while she sells pieces of herself to the internet like she has nothing sacred left. This is not partnership. This is performance. She says it's her body, her page, her choice, and she's right. But it's also your piece, your woman, your standards. And Marcus said clearly, ambition means tying your well-being to what other people say or do. But a woman whose well-being lives in her DMS will never build peace with you. She will destroy it, silently, one post at a time. So ask yourself, can she sit in silence? Can she glow in private? Can she find power without applause? Because if she can't, she's not with you. She's with the world. And you are just standing in the spotlight she reserves for herself. Rule 4. Sexual manipulation. When she uses intimacy as a weapon, there is a quiet kind of control most men don't speak about. Not because they don't see it, but because they feel ashamed for needing something so badly. She gives it, then she withholds it. She weaponizes your hunger and calls it boundaries. But boundaries bring peace. This brings obedience. The fourth behavior no man should ever tolerate is this: a woman who uses sex not as connection, but as control. Marcus Aurelius taught self-mastery above impulse, to rise above the desires that enslave weak men. But too many men lie beside women who rule them with softness, who dangle affection like a leash, and wonder why their soul feels tied to a collar. You try to lead, she resists. You ask for closeness, she punishes. You try to fix things with love, and she uses love to bend your will. That's not romance, that's warfare. You've become a beggar in your own home, waiting for permission to feel wanted, crawling for scraps of affection like a dog at her table. And when she finally gives it, you confuse relief for love. But Marcus Aurelius didn't just teach discipline. He lived it. He wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." But the man ruled by lust will never be unlike the one who injures him, because he keeps returning to the wound, begging for it to become a cure. She knows it too. She reads your desperation, not in your words, but in your silence, in how quickly you forgive her, in how low you sink when she closes the door. She'll say she's tired, she's not in the mood, you're not romantic enough. But let me ask you this: when did love become a reward you had to earn like a dog in training? You don't negotiate respect, you don't trade peace for pleasure, and you don't stay in a bed where you are only wanted after you obey. This isn't about sex, it's about your dignity, because the moment she sees you will bow for touch. She stops touching your soul, and the man who trades power for pleasure will one day wake up addicted to a woman who no longer even sees him as a man, but as a puppet made of need. So hear this: If her love has a price, it's not love. If her affection must be earned, you are not her partner. You are her project. You are not weak for wanting intimacy. You are weak when you abandon self-respect to get it. Marcus taught men to detach from the things that control them, including lust, including longing, including the illusion that her body will heal your soul. A woman's warmth should open your heart, not own your spine. Rule 5. Contempt for your purpose, the silent killer of a man's future. Some betrayals don't come with lies or lust. They come with laughter, at your ideas, at your discipline, at your future. And you don't even notice it at first, because you're too busy explaining your vision to someone who's already decided it's a joke. The 5th behavior no man should ever tolerate is this: a woman who does not respect your mission. You speak of the business you want to build. She smirks. You wake up early to improve your life. She rolls her eyes and says, "You're doing too much." At first it sounds playful, but look closer. Her words carry a tone of contempt because your growth makes her uncomfortable. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." But how can you be one when every step toward excellence is mocked by the one who's supposed to walk beside you? Here's the hidden danger. She won't tell you to quit outright. She'll just interrupt your focus. She'll just question why you're working so hard. She'll just plant little seeds of doubt until your confidence dies in your own hands. And now you're grinding for approval. You're no longer building your future. You're building a cage, hoping she finds it impressive. Let me be clear. The woman who cannot see your purpose will eventually stand in its way. Not because she's evil, but because she's selfish. If your discipline doesn't benefit her directly, she mocks it. If your ambition doesn't center her, she minimizes it. And slowly, your fire becomes ash. You stop dreaming loudly. You stop planning publicly. You start hiding your goals just to avoid another sigh, another jab, another look of disinterest. That's not love. That's sabotage wearing perfume. And too many men are walking through life half-built because the woman they love took a sledgehammer to their spirit and called it honesty. You are not a clown. You are not a child. And you are not obligated to explain your destiny to someone committed to misunderstanding it. Marcus taught that the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. But if your thoughts are constantly being diluted by her sarcasm, her dismissal, her passive-aggressive disrespect, your soul won't shine. It will shrink. A partner fuels your purpose. A parasite drains it. And the man who stays with a woman who scorches his mission will one day awaken in a life built for her and empty of himself. Rule 6. The ghost of competition. When she doesn't want a partner, she wants to win. She says she wants a strong man, a driven man, a man with vision. But when he arrives, she competes with him, not openly, not aggressively, but through small contests disguised as progress. She compares salaries, tracks followers, talks over you when others are listening, speaks louder when you're making a point. And when you win, she claps, but her eyes don't smile. The 6th behavior no man should ever tolerate is this: a woman who sees you not as a teammate, but as a threat. Marcus Aurelius warned, ambition means tying your well-being to what other people say or do. And a woman infected with comparison disease doesn't want a household. She wants a leaderboard. Her success is hers. Your success is shared. Her wins are trophies. Your wins are intimidating. And soon, you start shrinking. You start hiding victories. You dull your edge. just to keep her ego sharp. You downplay your income. You tiptoe around your leadership. You take blame just to avoid another emotional outburst dressed in empowerment. But let me say this plainly. You cannot build with a woman who measures her strength by how often she outranks you. This is not about keeping her down. This is about protecting your place. A woman who wants to walk beside you does not need to be above you. She celebrates your rise because it lifts the whole house. She pushes herself because of your presence, not against it. But the one who always needs to outshine you, she doesn't love you. She loves being better than you. And when a woman's value is tied to your failure, she'll sabotage you and call it self-expression. She'll mock your leadership and call it confidence. She'll resist your direction and call it independence. She'll silence your wins and amplify her own. And you'll become a ghost in your own home. Heard but not respected. Present but not praised. Providing but not powerful. You are not her enemy, but in her eyes, you're not her equal unless you're losing. This is not Stoic partnership. This is silent warfare, and the cost is your peace, your presence, your power, because one day you'll look at her and realize you're not her man. You're her mirror, and she only loves you when you reflect her superiority. So ask yourself, does she truly celebrate you? Does she push herself because of your standard, or to beat it? Can she handle your greatness without measuring her own by it? Because if she can't, you are not in a relationship. You are in a contest she never told you started and can never allow you to win. Rule 7. Emotional manipulation disguised as trauma. When her pain becomes your prison. Every time she lies, she brings up her past. Every time she betrays, she tells you she's still healing. Every moment she pulls away, lashes out, disrespects you. She has a story, a wound, a reason. And now you're not her man. You're her redeemer, her emotional sponge, her unpaid therapist. The 7th behavior no man should ever tolerate is this: a woman who uses her trauma to justify mistreating you. Marcus Aurelius said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." But this isn't revenge. It's emotional corruption. She sins. You repent. She lashes out. You apologize. She shuts down. You crawl. And the more broken she claims to be, the more guilty you feel for even wanting love in return. You start walking on eggshells around her triggers. You adjust your tone, your words, your needs. You become the emotional janitor for her chaos because every time you express your boundaries, you're not being sensitive to her trauma. But let me ask you this: what about your soul? What about your peace? You are not her father. You are not her counselor. You are not her savior. You are a man, and you deserve to be met with presence, not excuses. Yes, trauma is real, but healing requires responsibility, not projection, not blame, not entitlement. If her pain is always louder than your needs, if her past is always more sacred than your present, you are not in a relationship. You are in a therapy session that never ends. And you're the one being diagnosed every time you ask for love. This is how your emotional self dies. Not through rage, through silence. You slowly start believing you're the problem. You bury your truth beneath her tears. But Marcus warned, if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. And if what she's doing is unfair, if what she's saying is untrue, then staying makes you the betrayer of yourself. Because trauma is not a permission slip to destroy others, and love is not a trophy for those who refuse to change. You are allowed to want peace. You are allowed to want softness. You are allowed to say, "Your pain does not give you the right to hurt me." Her past may explain her patterns, but it does not excuse them. And if she refuses to grow, you must refuse to stay. Rule 8. Entitlement without accountability. When she demands like a queen but acts like a child, she wants more. More time, more effort, more money, more attention, more answers, more of you. But when it's time to give back, she vanishes. The 8th behavior no man should ever tolerate is this: a woman who expects royalty and gives peasantry. She says you're the man, and so she expects provision, protection, presence. But ask for anything in return? Suddenly you're controlling, insecure, too much. This is the modern confusion, where the prize expects to be worshipped but never earned. Marcus Aurelius said, "So other people hurt me? That's their problem. Their character and actions are not mine." And yet here you are, being judged for not doing enough by someone who brings almost nothing to the table but demand. She doesn't cook, she doesn't clean, she doesn't nurture, she doesn't grow. But she thinks your devotion is owed. She measures you by your flaws while excusing her own in the name of healing. She wants a leader, but only if she can lead him. And here's what you've likely done. You've given her everything: time, focus, energy, support. And yet, she still acts like she's settling, like your effort is expected, never appreciated. You build, she evaluates, you sacrifice, she critiques, you lead, she resists. Not because you lead poorly, but because following feels like loss to a woman raised by ego, not wisdom. She sees submission as weakness, respect as oppression, gratitude as optional. And you've internalized it. You now work harder for a woman who thanks you less. You give more to someone who gives less. You try to please a woman who is addicted to dissatisfaction. But Marcus didn't tell men to argue. He told them to act. He said, "A man should be upright, not kept upright. And if a woman's affection is the only thing keeping you standing, you are not upright. You are propped up by the fear of abandonment." This is not what a king allows. A queen multiplies what her king gives. She doesn't drain it. She doesn't treat his labor as duty and her presence as gift. She doesn't act like loyalty is a burden. So ask yourself, does she give when you're down? Does she pour into your mission? Does she see herself as part of the vision or just a collector of your efforts? Because if not, you are not in a relationship. You are in a transaction, and she's the only one charging interest. You're not selfish for expecting reciprocity. You're not toxic for wanting appreciation. You're not controlling for having standards. You are a man, and the woman who does not honor what you give has no right to receive it. Rule 9, boundary testing. When she breaks the rules just to see if you'll flinch. She says she forgot to tell you. She says you're overreacting. She says it was innocent, but you felt it. The small lies. The late night replies to "just a friend." The post she said she'd never upload. The ex she swore she'd blocked, still lingering in her likes. It's not betrayal, not yet, but it's a test. And every time you let it slide, you teach her that the rules are bendable, as long as she's the one bending them. The 9th behavior no man should ever tolerate is this: a woman who plays on the edge of your boundaries just to watch you fold. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." But she does it anyway, then tells you it's nothing, that you're insecure, that you're imagining things. And slowly, your instincts rot under the weight of your own silence. You start questioning yourself. Am I being too controlling? Maybe I'm just paranoid. Maybe I'm the problem. But brother, here's the truth. Every time she crosses a line and you stay, the line disappears. And what begins as a small thing becomes the new standard. She'll dress more provocatively online. It's just for fun. She'll disappear for hours. My phone died. She'll bring up other men, joke about work husbands, post thirst traps with vague captions. And you sit there, trying not to look jealous, trying to prove you're secure. But let me ask you this. What is the point of having standards if you abandon them just to keep her smiling? This is a slow death of self-respect, the erosion of masculine order. Because now she knows, you don't mean what you say. Your boundaries are just suggestions, guidelines, optional. You think she'll love you more for being chill, for being flexible, for not starting drama. But she won't. She'll respect you less, because in her mind, love isn't proved by how much you can take. It's proved by how much you protect. And if you won't protect your peace, your image, your standard, she'll test you forever. Not because she wants to hurt you, but because she wants to feel your edges. She wants to know, is this man real or just another mask I can mold? So here's the law. When she crosses a boundary, you respond, not with screaming, not with begging, but with finality. Because if your silence becomes permission, your tolerance becomes tradition. You'll wake up one day beside a woman who does everything you once said you couldn't accept, and you'll have no one to blame but yourself. Rule 10. The erosion of respect. When she no longer sees the king in you, she doesn't yell anymore. She doesn't fight. She doesn't even mock. She just doesn't look. You speak. She scrolls. You walk in. She barely lifts her eyes. You make a decision. She does the opposite without a word. There's no drama, no explosion, just cold, quiet withdrawal. This is the final and most dangerous behavior a man should never tolerate. A woman who no longer respects your presence. Marcus Aurelius said, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to think, to enjoy, to love." But what of the man who wakes beside a woman who sees no privilege in his presence, who once felt like a leader, a protector, a provider, but now feels like furniture in the room he paid for? She used to light up when you entered. Now she barely reacts. She used to ask for your thoughts. Now your voice is background noise. This is not a relationship. This is emotional exile. And yet you stay because the absence of pain feels better than confrontation, because indifference doesn't scream, it whispers. And you start convincing yourself that silence means safety. But here's the brutal truth. Hate is easier to survive than apathy, because at least hate still means you matter. Indifference is the graveyard of connection. It's when she's emotionally gone, but physically present, just enough to keep you hopeful. And this is where most men rot. They stop asking, stop initiating, stop leading. They settle into the background of their own lives, quietly fading behind the woman they once thought they'd build a kingdom with. But Marcus warned us, don't waste what's left of your life speculating about others, unless it is for mutual benefit. And if you're spending every day decoding her silence, measuring her mood, negotiating for basic presence, there is no mutual benefit. There is only emotional surveillance. You've become the detective in your own relationship. And the moment that happens, the case is already lost. She's not cruel, just numb. And that's the violence of it. She doesn't have to break you. She just has to stop seeing you. And the man who stays in that space, he doesn't just lose her, he loses himself, because no man can remain great when the woman beside him stops believing he is. If you've watched this far, you already know. This wasn't just a video. It was a mirror, a battlefield, a line in the sand. You can't unsee the truths you've just heard. And you shouldn't, because men are not suffering from weakness. They're suffering from silence, from swallowing pain, from calling disrespect love, and burying themselves just to keep someone else warm. But not anymore. Now you've seen, now you know, and now you lead. So if this message stirred something in your chest, if it made you remember who the hell you are, then make it echo. Like the video, share it with another man who's starting to forget his worth. Comment with one word, awake. Let the world know you've risen. And if you want more clarity, more power, more truth without compromise, then subscribe. Not for content, for armor. Because this isn't just a channel. This is a brotherhood of men who refuse to bow, break, or beg. And one by one, we're remembering.